Hey guys, welcome back to the DeeTimeLove show. Today we've got a Watch Wow podcast. Those of you that are listening live to the podcast via Watch Wow, welcome back to the show. And there's only one topic at hand really, and that are the new releases from various different watch manufacturers. But let's talk about the big boys, the guys that take the limelight, and it's Rolex and Tudor. With no Baselworld being discontinued, we can say we are left to these technical social media events. I was anticipating the Rolex releases with much enthusiasm, as much as enthusiasm that I had for Tudor. And the website crashed. The Tudor website crashed, and to everybody's surprise, we had to watch the releases via their YouTube channel. Was that done on purpose? I don't know. Maybe it was done to attract people to their YouTube channel. I think. But let's talk about Rolex, and probably the most anticipated watch of 2021 was the 50th anniversary for the Rolex Explorer II. And I think it came to a real shock to everybody because of the real anticipation and the Photoshop imagery that was out there on the websites across the watch community. Everybody was expecting a real upgrade on the actual Explorer 2. Don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the current lineup of the Explorer 2. And I think Rolex felt the same and felt there was no need to do anything drastic to the actual popular Explorer 2. Yes, it's had an upgrade in the movement. And that's about it from what I can see to the naked eye. It's something that we'll need to investigate. This is just initial impressions. Nothing to get excited about there for sure in regards to the Explorer 2. But the biggest surprise was the Explorer 1. Now, the Explorer 1 at 39mm has been discontinued, and I think it was no surprise that the 39mm was going to be discontinued, but everybody within the watch community was expecting a 41mm version if they were going to continue with a movement upgrade. What did we get in return? We got a Rolex Explorer 1 at 36mm, and we got a two-tone version at 36mm. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a big lover and fan of the Rolex Explorer, and I understand as an exploration watch, it has to be light, so size is important. The smaller it is, the lighter it's going to be. Maybe not so much for the two-tone version. That's probably a watch that you'll want to walk around in Harrods with, exploring what luxury goods you're going to buy. But the still orientation, the still version, is gone back to its original roots. Now, it's been a lot of debate within the watch community, a huge amount of debate, of disappointment, but I'm looking at it at the other side of the coin. For the purists, the Rolex enthusiasts who opts for the 36mm, this must be music to their ears to hear that Rolex have launched the Explorer 1 at 36mm. It's quite a light watch. It's Rolex's lightest sports watch within the range, and that's because it's an exploration watch. At 36mm, it's not going to be so blingy, not so much in your face. It's really a Rolex for the purist, and especially here in the UK, you'll struggle to find a Rolex Explorer 1 at 36mm. The vintage pieces have literally disappeared. There's a real premium on them now, and I wonder what this new variant will do to the actual vintage pieces. Will it actually affect the price, or will it even boost the 36mm range? I've got to think a bit of both, I would have thought. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe Rolex next year will unveil a larger version. I think it's on the cards. With all honesty, it does make sense. I think they will launch a 41mm version of the Explorer 1. I think it's going to happen. I probably think that the Rolex Air King may drop in a size, I would have thought, to 39mm to cover that side of that size of watches. But yeah, it was a strange one. I have to be honest with you. I wasn't expecting that, but having spoken to people within the secondary market game, people that just specialize in vintage Rolex, they said to me the demand for 36mm, whether it's a Rolex Datejust or an Explorer, is absolutely huge. And there's a lot of people that have started collecting Rolex Datejust with different dial variations. And for example, Rolex launched a wide range of these really cool dials, you know, at 36mm, which I thought was, I wasn't expecting that, to be honest with you. Maybe 36mm is back. Maybe they're looking at, look, you know, maybe because of the lack of availability of the, you know, the sports range at 41mm, people opted just to go out there and get whatever they could with the Rolex brand on there at 36mm. There's a lot more 36mm available. Datejust will be probably the bread and butter for Rolex going forward. I guess I pretty much think maybe the Datejust will be the watches that will be, you know, filling up that shot window. But I think those special dials, I think those new dials, especially the one with the leaf, they call it the Ganja dial, and all the other variants, check them out. They look really cool. They're really cool. I would have liked them to be at 41mm, but they've come out 36. You know, I'm a big fan of vintage Rolex Datejust at 36mm, you know, the 16014. I think they're really cool watches. And yeah, the Rolex Datejust range has always had a very cool dial variations. But overall, you know, with the Daytona, check them out, the material dials, cool, pricey, really cool Rolex Daytona. But probably, you know, these are the watches that are extremely hard to get. And Tudor Tudor releases were pretty cool, and what can I say? Tudor, especially that Black Bay 58 silver case. Wow, look at that color, very unique, very different. I need to do a bit of research on this to see, you know, how this is going to work, because most manufacturers don't use that material anymore. And the 18 karat gold version Black Bay 58, 13k, just under 13k here in the UK for 18 karat gold Tudor Black Bay 58. That's going to be Tudor's most expensive watch in the lineup. That's pretty much the flagship model now, and I can see them producing a lot of 18 karat gold watches. As I said in my previous video, Tudor is sort of like looking to replace where Rolex once were before in the market. At that price point, there's no way you could buy a solid gold Rolex Submariner anywhere near that price, but it's priced just right for me. I think it's a beautiful piece. Not 100% sure about the clear case back. Don't know what their thought was. Only thing I'm thinking is that they were trying to save cost by giving it a clear case back, because by having a solid gold case back can only add to the price of this watch. So you're probably saving a good £1,000 or more just by having a clear case back there, and it gives them an opportunity to showcase their in-house movement, which is very what can I say, very toolish, if that's a word, very industrial, I have to say. Reminds me of a little bit of what Oris do with their watches. Not anything spectacular, but it's not bad. It's not ugly. It's not like a Seiko 5. You know, they haven't decorated it though. I mean, this is what I love about Omega, because when they do a clear case back, they do it properly, I have to say. And you know, it's a little bit disappointing from a watch enthusiast point of view, but not something that would put me off the watch. What puts me off is the price. Are you really going to part with 13k to get that Tudor 58 in 18 karat gold? But I think this could be a watch where, you know, with a little bit of a discount, you know, it could be worth it getting your first gold piece for sure. Probably the most interesting releases is the silver one. But I'm also a big fan of Tudor's Chrono, well, the Chrono Monte Carlo, and the Heritage line. I wasn't that keen on the all steel version, but I have to say these new combos were much needed to bring life into the range. I like the two-tone very cool, very sophisticated, quite sexy in a way, but the price is just right. And I think these chronos are going to be a massive hit for Tudor. Really do. I think they're going to be a big hit for them. But overall, you know, if I was to give them, you know, Rolex a score out of 10 for their releases for 2021, I'd have to give them a 5. They play it safe, nothing spectacular, but just enough to keep interest, you know, to make you think, get them talking about Rolex again, you know, because if they did everything that we wanted straight away, they wouldn't have to give it to us in dribs and drabs, if that makes sense. I was, you know, 2020 Rolex release, the Submariner, very, very needed, I think, with the upgrades. That model was not a bad model, but those thick lugs tend to put me off, and I felt that it had fallen behind the new Omega Seamaster, so it brings it up to the competition. But probably the biggest talking point in terms of Rolex new release is the GMT coming out on a Oyster bracelet, you know, in all steel. That's something that's another video, I believe, to discuss that. I think that's going to be the hottest watch for them, the new GMT release. So a 5 out of 10 for me for 2021 Rolex release. They could have done more, in my opinion. But in saying that, the traditional method of releasing watches has changed. We live in a new world now with this COVID, this pandemic. We live in a new world where don't be surprised if they don't release the 50th anniversary Rolex Explorer II at a later date, so it gets the limelight, just that model. I wouldn't be surprised if they change the way they operate now, Rolex. They dictate how the market works, and they may want to release a model by itself, solely by itself, so it gets all the limelight and the press will be all over it. Maybe it's wishful thinking on my behalf, but in regards to Tudor, I think they had a slightly better release than Rolex, something a little bit exciting. They've brought new materials to the table with the silver, sterling silver, and the 18 karat gold. Very cool indeed. And those chronos, not as many new releases, but something that makes you think, wow, Tudor are definitely going in the right direction yet again. So I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10. So for me so far, looking at the new releases, I have to say, Zenith have come up with loads of new releases, and still trying to get my head around it, what they're doing. Very expensive, some very expensive watches that have come out. Not sure how well they're going to do. Breitling have come out with some excellent releases as well, I have to say. Not that long ago, Omega's releases, I was pretty impressed with them. I think Omega probably had the best release out of the lot, you know, for 2021 for me. I'm giving them a 7/8 out of 10 for the releases. I think there's some really interesting stuff with the Seamaster in bronze gold as well. Interesting that Omega launched a Seamaster in 9 karat bronze gold, and Tudor have launched an 18 karat gold Black Bay 58. This is quite interesting for me because the Seamaster they launched is more of their sort of vintage inspired Seamaster range, and it would be some directly going in competition probably with the Black Bay 58, I would have thought. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two watches fight it out. I think they're near the same sort of price banding as well, so that's going to be very interesting indeed. But guys, thanks for checking out my podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the visuals with my podcast, and guys that are on the Watch Wow subscription fee, continue watching, guys. There's a lot more coming through in the channel. I will be sharing this on the DeeTimeLove channel. I just wanted to share this podcast because every time there's a new release, I just want to get your opinion, see what your thoughts are, share your ideas on all the new releases. What's your favorite and what's the one you dislike the most? Guys, leave your comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And guys, please press that like button. It really does help. And I'll see you in the next video.